Hey, Vinnie, thank you so much for having me. I'm Laura Del Beccaro, and I am co-founder and CEO of Sora, an HR automation tool helping people teams create exceptional employee experiences. So the whole reason Sora exists is because creating great employee experiences is way harder than it should be, and it turns out scaling them is even harder. Sora got started because of this spreadsheet. This is the actual spreadsheet that the HR team at a previous company used to manage their employee onboarding. And it's actually one of the better ones that we've seen, but it was a ton of work to manage. We see this at most of the companies we work with. None of their tools talk to each other, so it actually somehow makes more sense to pull data out of each system, making it static, so that at least everything is in one place, but it's still in a manual spreadsheet. Teams have a ton of amazing strategic ideas to improve employee experiences, but are basically unable to implement any of them because they're so bogged down with the administrative work, the communication, data entry, and task management of processes just like these. There's just a lot to coordinate in general. They have to coordinate with several teams. They have to work in several tools and then actually maintain all of the processes that they've designed. That often requires technical help that isn't easy to get, et cetera, et cetera. And it starts to feel like HR teams are perpetually understaffed. It's not just a pain. It actually leads up to some serious productivity loss when it's all added up. So this is a super conservative calculator based on average data from Sora customers before they started using us. And it only takes into account some minor data entry and basic processes, no time spent actually dealing with issues that come out of it. And it actually adds up to over half of a full-time employee for every 100 employees at your company. So for any company from 10 employees to 100 employees to 10,000 employees, this is a huge, huge cost.
Just the onboarding part, or
HR operations processes in general?
Okay.
Good question. So why is all of this so time consuming? The root issue in our view is that processes themselves and the data is fragmented. So all of these tools, an applicant tracking system, an HRIS or HCM, Slack or Microsoft Teams, they're all crucial for employee experience and for getting HR tasks completed, but they're really bad at talking to each other. And it ends up ironically leading to a worse employee experience and to a harder time for the HR team who's kind of constantly rowing between all of these islands. And sometimes it actually gets really bad. Fragmented processes lead to a ton of work and headache, but they can also lead to some serious, in some cases, irreversible issues, from incorrect salaries to equity grants to employees being unable to log in for weeks when they first start. We've heard a lot of horror stories, and for client compliance related issues, if they fall through the cracks, your company could be potentially fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we need something that connects and automates all of this, and this is where Sora comes in. Sora is an HR command center that helps HR operations teams automate, personalize, and manage employee processes in one place. So it integrates with core people and experience tools, so they're actually talking to each other, eliminating all of the data errors. And then it helps HR and people teams without any technical help automate and customize processes between and on top of these tools. So they get to build great processes and just let them run rather than constantly doing maintenance work. These processes can come in a ton of flavors because they're completely customizable. And these are just some of the processes our customers have automated in Sora using the same kind of building blocks for each thing. So this gets to your question about how we extend sort of past onboarding. Any process you can imagine that is, annoying or tedious or repetitive can be automated using emails that look like they're coming from humans, surveys, data movement between tools, etc. It's also important to note that go ahead.
You compete with RPA tools. Is this what category? I mean, who would you say is your positioning? Where's the positioning?
It's a good question. We don't typically directly compete with RPA tools, but it is a similar idea where there's just this incredibly manual and repetitive process that we need to automate. The main difference I would say between Sora and an RPA tool is Sora focuses a lot on what the actual end employee sees and making that as human as possible, and focuses a lot on communication. So communication between stakeholders, sending emails and Slack messages that look like they're coming from the HR team, et cetera. So it's kind of keeping the human element of these manual processes. Our competition is typically just a spreadsheet, or maybe a simple task list like in Asana or Jira or Trello or something like that. It's important to note that we can automate what humans are doing now without losing that human touch, like I mentioned. But we can also automate a lot more that teams couldn't previously get to because there just wasn't enough time in the day. So everything outlined in orange here are things that customers have added to their existing processes now that they have the power of Sora to automate anything they want. So we can improve these existing processes and essentially add some like surprise and delight at scale. And not only that, but teams are taken away from all this tedious work. So they now have the time freed up to work on really important strategic initiatives, improving employee retention, working on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, et cetera.
I presume you have a number of Workday clients, right? What other HR books of record do you work with?
Say that one more time, you presume?
Oh, sorry. So I presume you work with quite a few Workday customers, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Do you work with other books of record?
Yeah.
Like Oracle or SAP or?
We work with SuccessFactors, we work with UKG or Ultipro, ADP, pretty much any system that you use. So we're very agnostic to whatever HR stack you use, because we believe you should be able to choose whatever best-in-class tools you want to work with without the pain point of dealing with them not talking to each other.
Okay.
So this is what the HR Command Center looks like. It's a one-stop shop where teams can share processes with stakeholders so they understand them, manage tasks across all of these different processes and teams and tools, et cetera. And within a given process, like in a compensation change approval process, as an example, teams can see individual progress through workflows and resolve any data issues directly in Sora. And Sora will actually keep all of that employee data up to date in all of your HR systems. So if something changes in ADP, we will update that in Workday and any other core systems that you care about so that data integrity is no longer a question. You can always export all of your data and do whatever analysis you'd like, trusting that it's up to date and accurate. And that's the main summary. So our core thesis, again, is just that time is valuable, and HR teams could be working on so many important strategic initiatives. And we want to enable that as much as possible by augmenting the initiatives themselves, but also freeing up HR teams to work on the human things that machines just can't do. So these are just some of the companies that we work with that are really excited about Sora and automating anything from onboarding to offboarding to parental leave to COVID vaccination return to work policies. And we've got quite a bit of customer love, which we're really proud of.
Is there a sweet spot? What customers, size or industry or?
Good question. Generally, any company from 100 to 10,000 employees, I would say, is our sweet spot. So anything from the mid-market to the small and medium-sized enterprise typically has enough tools and enough processes and probably a somewhat complex workforce that makes a lot of these processes particularly complex. So a firm is one of those examples. They have, I believe, almost 2,000 employees at this point, and they have Sora open all day, every day, but they have a lot of complex processes because they have offices all over, from Pittsburgh to San Francisco to some international offices, and processes need to be slightly different for each of those subsets of employees. So it helps a lot to have an automated tool that knows exactly what should happen for which types of employees for all the different kinds of permutations. At Plaid, which is similarly about 1,000 employees, Amanda, who actually now works at Sora, mentioned that she didn't want to work anywhere without Sora. She couldn't go back because it kind of feels like almost a revolution, if you will, like going from paper processes to DocuSign is like going from spreadsheets to Sora. It should eliminate so much of these pain points that you can't imagine going back to the spreadsheet ways.
Nice. That's a great quote.
Yeah. And we work really, really closely with every single one of our customers. We take customer success really seriously. So we actually help you build all of these processes out. And we work with you throughout your entire duration of a contract with Sora in order to make sure you're still getting value out of the tool.
So the name Sora, is that a play on soar, or where did it come from?
It actually comes from the Japanese word for sky, and it comes from that idea that we live on top of all of your existing HR tools.
Okay,